The Galactic Council had ruled the known universe for 12,000 years. They controlled trade between star systems. They made laws that all species had to follow. They decided who was important and who was not. The 12 founding species sat at the top of this system. They had been in space the longest. They believed this gave them the right to control everyone else. Earth joined the Council only 80 years ago. To the older species, humans were like children who had just learned to walk. Useful for simple tasks, good at building things and working hard, but not important enough to have a real voice in galactic politics. The Council gave humanity a seat at the table, but it was a small seat in the back corner where no one had to listen. Ambassador Chen Wei-Lin had served Earth for 15 years. She had watched her people work twice as hard as any other species. She had seen humans solve problems that had confused alien engineers for centuries. She had witnessed human doctors save lives across 100 worlds. And she had seen all of this dismissed as the efforts of a junior species who should be grateful for any attention at all. Today, she stood in the Grand Assembly Hall on Station Helix Prime. The hall was massive. It could hold 10,000 beings from every corner of the galaxy. Light from distant stars poured through crystal windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. The 12 high counselors sat on elevated platforms, looking down at everyone else. This design was intentional. It reminded all visitors of their place in the order of things. The case before the council was simple. 70 years ago, human explorers had discovered a cluster of asteroids rich in rare minerals. They had mapped the region. They had built the first mining stations. They had invested billions of credits and decades of work into developing the area. Then the Vithrani Consortium had arrived with their warships and their ancient land claims. They said their ancestors had passed through this region 10,000 years ago. This made it theirs. The council had ruled in favor of the Vithrani. Again, this was the third time in 10 years that Earth had lost such a dispute. The pattern was clear. When a founding species wanted something that humans had built, the council found a way to give it to them. High Counselor Thex Oral looked down at Ambassador Chen. He was a tall being covered in gray scales. His 4 eyes showed no emotion. His voice carried the boredom of someone who had made the same decision 1,000 times before. "The ruling stands," he announced. "The Vithrani claim is recognized. Human operations in the disputed zone will cease within 30 standard days. We expected better from you, Ambassador. Humans must learn that junior species accept the wisdom of their elders." Chen felt something break inside her. Not her spirit, her patience. She had spent 15 years smiling through insults. She had written reports that no one read. She had attended meetings where her voice was ignored. She had watched her people give everything to a galaxy that saw them as servants. All of this ended now. She reached into her formal robes and pulled out a document. It was printed on actual paper, an old Earth tradition for matters of great importance. The hall fell silent. Paper documents were rare. They meant something permanent. "I am authorized by the United Earth government to make the following announcement," Chen said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties between Earth and Council member species are terminated. All trade agreements are cancelled. All human embassies across the galaxy will close within 1 standard week. All humans living and working in Council space are recalled home." For a long moment, no one moved. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Then Thex Oral made a sound that might have been laughter. "Ambassador, you cannot be serious. Earth's economy depends on galactic trade. Your species will collapse within a year without access to our markets and technology." Chen looked up at him. For the first time in 15 years, she did not hide her feelings. "High Counselor, with great respect, you have no idea what you are talking about. Earth survived for millions of years before we met you. We will survive long after you have forgotten our names." She placed the document on the speaker's podium and walked toward the exit. Her staff followed without a word. They had prepared for this moment for 3 years. Every human in the galaxy had been quietly warned. Ships were waiting. Plans were in motion. A voice called out from the council platforms. "You will regret this, Ambassador. When your people are starving and your cities are dark, you will come begging for forgiveness." Chen stopped at the door. She turned back one final time. "The council has treated humanity as a tool to be used and discarded. You took our labor, our creativity, our willingness to help, and you gave us nothing but contempt. So now we leave. And I promise you this. Within 1 year, You will understand exactly what you have lost." She walked out. The doors closed behind her. The council members looked at each other with confusion. Some were angry. Some were amused. Most simply did not care. Earth was a minor member. Their departure would cause some small problems, certainly. Some contracts would need to be renegotiated. Some positions would need to be filled. But the galaxy had existed for millions of years before humans crawled out of their caves. It would continue without them. High Counselor Thexoral returned to the day's agenda. There were important matters to discuss. Trade disputes between real powers. Military concerns along the outer rim. The human tantrum would sort itself out in time. They always came back. 3 hours later, Ambassador Chen boarded a shuttle leaving Station Helix Prime. She watched the massive structure shrink in the viewport. Her communicator was already filling with messages from human communities across the galaxy. They were scared. They were excited. They wanted to know if this was really happening. She sent one message to all of them. "Come home. We have work to do." The shuttle jumped to faster than light speed. Behind her, the Galactic Council continued its meeting, completely unaware that their universe had just changed forever. They would learn soon enough. 3 months passed after Earth closed its doors to the galaxy. The Council continued its work as if nothing had changed. High Counselor Thexoral gave speeches about stability and order. The founding species congratulated themselves on handling the human situation with wisdom and patience. Soon, they said, the humans would return with apologies and begging. Then the problems started. The first reports came from the outer colonies. Communication relays were failing across 3 star systems. These relays carried messages between worlds. Without them, ships could not navigate safely. Trade could not be coordinated. Emergency signals could not reach rescue teams. Engineers from the Vethrani Consortium rushed to fix the systems. They found something strange. The relays had not broken down naturally. They were simply too complicated to maintain. The original designs used standard galactic technology, but over the decades, human engineers had modified them. They had made them faster and more reliable. They had also made them impossible for anyone else to understand. "These modifications make no sense," a Vethrani engineer reported. "They should not work according to our scientific principles, but they do work. We just do not know how." Across the galaxy, similar reports flooded in. Human workers had been everywhere, not in leadership positions, not in jobs that seemed important, but in the jobs that actually kept civilization running. The Kytheran hegemony discovered that their entire banking system ran on software designed by a human programming team. The software needed constant updates to function. Without those updates, transactions began to fail. Money disappeared from accounts and reappeared in wrong places. Within 6 weeks, the Kytheran economy was in chaos. The Shaltech Confederation learned that their food distribution network had been managed by a human logistics company for 40 years. The company had handled the complicated task of delivering different types of food to different species with different needs. Some species needed frozen food. Some needed living food. Some needed food that was radioactive. The human managers had juggled all of these requirements without complaint. Now they were gone, and no one knew how to do their jobs. Medical facilities suffered the worst. Human doctors had become popular across the galaxy for one simple reason: they could treat almost anyone. Human biology was unusually flexible. Human medical researchers had spent centuries studying every disease they could find. When they joined the galactic community, they brought this knowledge with them. They learned alien biology quickly. They found connections between species that no one else had noticed. A treatment developed for one species could be modified for another. Human doctors saved millions of lives every year. Now those doctors were gone. Hospitals that had relied on human staff found themselves unable to treat patients. Diseases that humans had controlled began to spread again. Species that had forgotten old medical knowledge found themselves helpless. High Counselor Thexoral called an emergency meeting of the Council. The 12 founding species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall. Their usual confidence was gone. Their faces showed worry and fear. "How did this happen?" demanded Counselor Vexnar of the Kytheran hegemony. How did one minor species become so essential without anyone noticing? The answer was simple, though no one wanted to admit it. The Council had treated humans as servants. They had given them the jobs that seemed unimportant: maintenance, logistics, healthcare for common people, software support, freight coordination. These were not glamorous positions. The founding species had focused on politics, military power, and grand projects. They had let humans handle the boring work, but the boring work was the foundation of everything. Without it, the grand projects collapsed. Worse still, the Council discovered something that shook them deeply. Humans had been serving as bridges between species. The galaxy contained thousands of different cultures with different languages, different customs, and different ways of thinking. Misunderstandings were constant. Conflicts arose from simple confusion. Humans had a strange talent for navigating these differences. They could talk to a Vethrani warrior and a Shaltech philosopher, and help both sides understand each other. They found common ground where none seemed to exist. They told stories and made jokes that somehow translated across all cultures. Without knowing it, they had become the glue, holding galactic society together. Now that glue was gone. Diplomatic meetings that had run smoothly for centuries turned into shouting matches. Trade negotiations collapsed over small misunderstandings. Old enemies remembered why they had hated each other. New enemies formed over imagined insults. 2 minor wars erupted in regions that had been peaceful for 1,000 years. A third war nearly started when a Vethrani ship accidentally entered Kytheran space because their navigation system, designed by human engineers, had stopped working correctly. The Council sent messages to Earth. They demanded that humans return to their posts. They offered better wages. They promised improved treatment. They even apologized for some of their past decisions. Earth did not respond. The messages continued for weeks, each one more desperate than the last. The Council threatened economic punishment. They threatened military action. They begged. They pleaded. Silence. On Earth, Director Chen Wei-Lin read every message that came from the Council. She had been promoted after her dramatic exit from Station Helix Prime. Her new job was simple: decide when Earth would talk to the galaxy again. She decided that day had not yet come. Let them feel what we felt, she told her staff. Let them understand what it means to be ignored. Let them learn what they lost. Outside her window, Earth continued its life. Farms produced food, factories built goods, scientists made discoveries, artists created beauty. Humanity had everything it needed to survive alone. The galaxy had been a bonus, not a necessity. The same could not be said for the Council. As the 4th month began, reports indicated that galactic trade had fallen by 40%. 12 major corporations had collapsed. Food shortages were appearing on wealthy worlds that had never known hunger. The carefully built structure of galactic civilization was crumbling, and no one knew how to stop it. The founding species had finally learned an important lesson. The people you ignore are often the ones keeping your world from falling apart. 1 year had passed since Earth closed its borders. The galaxy was burning. The Vethrani Consortium and the Kytheran hegemony were at war. The conflict had started over a trade route. Both species blamed the other for economic problems that had actually been caused by the human departure. Neither side would admit this truth. It was easier to fight than to accept responsibility. The Shaltech Confederation had withdrawn completely from galactic affairs. They hoarded every piece of human-made technology they still possessed. Their scientists worked day and night trying to understand how these devices functioned. They made little progress. Human engineering followed a strange logic that other species could not grasp. Smaller species suffered the most. They had depended on the stability that the Council provided. Now that stability was gone. Pirates attacked shipping lanes that had been safe for centuries. Diseases spread without human doctors to stop them. Communication networks failed and left entire worlds isolated. The Council met every week to discuss solutions. Every week, they failed to find any. High Counselor Thexoral had lost weight. His gray scales had turned pale. He no longer gave confident speeches about the wisdom of the founding species. He spent his days reading reports about disasters and his nights unable to sleep. We must force Earth to return, Counselor Vexnar argued during one meeting. Send a fleet. Make them understand that they cannot simply abandon their responsibilities. Military advisors quickly shut down this idea. During their 80 years in the Council, humans had studied galactic weapons technology carefully. They had also developed their own defensive systems. Earth's solar system was now protected by a network of stations and automated weapons that no one fully understood. Any attack would be extremely costly. Victory was far from certain. Then we negotiate, suggested another counselor. Offer them whatever they want: better status, more votes, reparations for past wrongs. This approach had also failed. Earth refused to answer any communications. Messages sent to human space disappeared into silence. Ships approaching the border were turned away by automated warnings. Humanity had built a wall around itself, and no one could find a door. On Earth, Director Chen monitored the chaos with careful attention. She felt no joy at the suffering. She was not cruel, but she understood that some lessons could only be learned through pain. Her strategy was simple. Wait until the galaxy was ready to change. The old council system was broken. It concentrated power in the hands of species who had simply arrived first. Junior members like Earth had no real voice. Their contributions were taken for granted. Their complaints were ignored. Any return to this system would eventually lead to the same problems. Chen wanted something different. She wanted a galaxy where every species was equal, where power came from contribution, not from age, where the beings who actually kept civilization running had a say in how it was run. This vision seemed impossible. The founding species would never give up their privileges voluntarily. They had held power for 12,000 years. They believed it was their natural right, but desperate beings do desperate things, and the galaxy was growing very desperate indeed. Reports reached Earth about the spreading chaos. The Vithrani-Kitharan War had killed millions. Food shortages had caused riots on 100 worlds. The galactic currency had lost half its value. Governments that had stood for thousands of years were collapsing. Some of Chen's advisors urged action. They wanted to help. They wanted to use Earth's resources to ease the suffering. Humanity had always been helpers. It was in their nature. Chen refused. Not out of cruelty, but out of strategy. If we help now, nothing changes, she explained. They will take our assistance, recover their strength, and return to treating us as servants. We must wait until they are ready to build something new. The waiting was hard. Chen received letters from human communities that had not made it home before the borders closed. They were trapped in hostile territory. Some were being mistreated. Some were in danger. She read every letter and felt the weight of each one, but she did not open the borders. Not yet. Meanwhile, strange things were happening across the galaxy. Species that had never cooperated before began talking to each other. Without the council to manage their affairs, they had to solve problems themselves. Some of these efforts failed, but others succeeded in surprising ways. The Vorathi, a species that had always been ignored by the council, developed a new medical technology that slowed the spread of disease. They shared it freely with anyone who asked. The Nexari, known mainly for their art, turned out to have excellent skills in conflict resolution. They began mediating disputes between warring factions. New leaders emerged. Young beings who had grown up watching the council fail. They asked dangerous questions. Why should the founding species have more votes? Why should age determine power? Why should the beings who build things have less voice than the beings who simply own things? Chen watched these developments with hope. The seeds of change were growing. The galaxy was learning to imagine something different. At the end of the first year, she received a message that made her smile for the first time in months. High Counselor Thexoral was requesting a personal meeting. He was willing to travel to Earth. He was willing to come alone and unarmed. This was unprecedented. A High Counselor had never shown such weakness. It meant the council was truly desperate. Chen took 3 days to respond. When she finally did, her message was short. You may come. We will listen. We promise nothing more. It was time to see if the galaxy was ready to change. The game was about to enter its final stage, and Chen held all the cards. High Counselor Thexoral had never felt fear before this moment. His species lived for 2,000 years. They had conquered entire star systems. They had built the Galactic Council and ruled the known universe. Fear was an emotion for lesser beings, but as his ship approached Earth's solar system, Thexoral felt something cold grip his hearts. He was about to beg. The journey had taken 2 weeks. He had traveled alone, as Director Chen required. His ship carried no weapons. This vulnerability was intentional. It showed that he came in peace. It also meant that if anything went wrong, he would die far from home with no way to defend himself. Human defense stations tracked his approach. Their weapons could destroy his ship in seconds. He knew this because his own military had studied human defenses and concluded that any attack on Earth would be suicide. The species that the Council had dismissed as primitive had somehow built the most advanced defensive system in the galaxy. A voice crackled through his communication system. It was calm and professional. Counselor Thexoral, you are cleared for approach. Follow the designated flight path exactly. Any deviation will be treated as hostile action. He followed the path precisely. Earth grew larger in his viewport. He had seen images of this world before. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It looked peaceful, beautiful. Nothing like the industrial wasteland he had expected from a species focused on manufacturing and labor. His ship landed at a small facility outside a human city. Chen was waiting for him. She looked older than he remembered. The past 2 years had marked her as well. "Hi, Counselor," she said. "Welcome to Earth." He stepped onto human soil for the first time. The air smelled strange. The gravity was slightly wrong. Everything felt alien, which was fitting. He was the alien here. Chen did not take him to a grand palace or an impressive government building. Instead, she drove him through ordinary streets in an ordinary vehicle. He saw humans living their lives, children playing in parks, workers building houses, artists painting murals on walls, markets selling food and crafts. "What are you showing me?" he asked. "Your mistake," Chen replied. She stopped the vehicle at a hillside overlooking the city. From here, Thexoral could see miles in every direction. He saw farms producing food, factories making goods, schools educating children, hospitals healing the sick, everything a civilization needed to survive, thriving without any help from the galaxy. "The Council believed Earth would collapse without galactic trade," Chen said. "You thought we needed you. You were wrong. We participated in your council because we wanted to help. We wanted to contribute. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. That is human nature. But we never needed you." Thexoral stood in silence. The truth of her words was visible everywhere he looked. Humanity had not only survived the separation, they had prospered. "Why am I here, Director?" "Because you have something to say. So say it." He had prepared a speech. He had practiced it during the long journey. Now the words seemed foolish. He abandoned the speech and spoke from whatever passed for his heart. "The galaxy is dying. The Council has failed. Everything we built over 12,000 years is falling apart. We tried to fix it ourselves. We could not. We need human help. I am here to offer whatever terms Earth requires. Full membership, voting rights, reparations, apologies, anything, everything. Just tell us what you want." Chen listened without expression. When he finished, she nodded slowly. "Thank you for your honesty, Counselor. Now I will give you mine." She paused. "Earth will not rejoin the Galactic Council." The words hit him like a physical blow. "What? Then why did you let me come here?" "Because we have a counter-proposal." She handed him a document. "Read this." Thexoral took the document. It was thick, detailed, comprehensive. As he read, his 4 eyes grew wider with each page. The document did not propose reforms to the Council. It proposed ending the Council entirely. In its place, humanity wanted to create something new. A general assembly where every species had equal voting rights. No more founding species. No more junior members. Every voice the same weight. The document included plans for a new judicial system. Fair courts that would resolve disputes based on evidence, not politics. Trade agreements that protected all parties equally. Defense arrangements that did not favor the powerful over the weak. It was a complete restructuring of galactic civilization. "This is impossible," Thexoral said. "The founding species will never accept this. You are asking us to give up everything we have built." "Correct," Chen said. "We are asking you to build something better." "Better for whom?" "For humanity. Better for everyone. Including you." She pointed to the city below. "Look at what humans built when we worked together as equals. Imagine what the galaxy could become if all species did the same." Thexoral looked at the document again. Part of him wanted to throw it away. This proposal would destroy his people's dominance. Everything the Vethrani had achieved over 12,000 years would be erased. But another part of him saw something different. The old system was already dying. The Council could not hold the galaxy together anymore. The choice was not between the old way and the new way. The choice was between change and extinction. "I cannot agree to this alone," he said finally. "I must bring it to the full Council." "Of course," Chen replied. "Take all the time you need. We have waited this long. We can wait longer." She smiled. "But Counselor, I would not wait too long. The galaxy is running out of time. Thexoral returned to his ship carrying the document that would reshape the universe. He did not know if his people would accept it. He did not know if any of the founding species would accept it. But as he left Earth's atmosphere and looked back at the blue world below, he understood one thing clearly. The humans had won. Not through war, not through threats, simply by being patient enough to wait for the galaxy to need them on their own terms. It was, he admitted, an impressive strategy. The debate on Station Helix Prime lasted for 3 weeks. High Counselor Thexoral presented Earth's proposal to the full council. The reaction was immediate and violent. "Surrender?" shouted Counselor Vexnar of the Kytheran hegemony. "You want us to surrender everything our ancestors built? Give equal voice to species that have only existed for a moment compared to us? I want us to survive." Thexoral replied. "Look around you. Our civilization is dying. The old system cannot hold us together anymore. We can adapt, or we can fall." The founding species split into factions. Some agreed with Thexoral. They saw the writing on the wall. Change was coming whether they wanted it or not. Better to guide that change than be destroyed by it. Others refused absolutely. Their pride would not allow them to accept equality with species they considered inferior. They had ruled for 12,000 years. They would rather watch the galaxy burn than step down from their thrones. For 3 weeks, the debate continued. Speeches were made, arguments were presented, alliances formed and broke apart. Outside the council chambers, the galaxy continued to crumble. More wars erupted. More economies collapsed. More systems went silent. Finally, the vote was called. 4 founding species rejected the proposal. The Vethrani Consortium led this group. Counselor Vexnar declared that his people would withdraw from galactic affairs entirely. They would build their own empire and let the rest of the universe destroy itself. 3 other species joined them. The remaining 8 founding species voted to accept Earth's terms. They did not do this happily. They did not do this willingly. They did it because they had no other choice. The alternative was extinction. Messages were sent to Earth. Director Chen read them with quiet satisfaction. After 5 years of silence, humanity would finally speak to the galaxy again, but not as servants. As architects of a new order, the construction of the General Assembly Station took 2 years. It was built in neutral space, far from any existing power center. Human engineers led the project, working alongside builders from dozens of species. The station was massive. It needed to hold representatives from every known civilization in the galaxy. When the station was complete, invitations went out. Not just to the founding species, not just to the established powers. Every species with faster-than-light travel received the same message. Come and take your place as equals. 847 species answered the call. The first General Assembly convened on a bright morning by Earth Standard Time. Director Chen, now titled Chief Representative of Earth, walked into the main chamber and felt her breath catch in her throat. She had worked toward this moment for 7 years. Seeing it become real was almost overwhelming. The chamber was designed as a circle. No elevated platforms, no positions of honor. Every seat was identical. Every delegation had the same space. A Vethrani warrior sat next to a Nixari artist. A Kytheran banker shared a table with a Vorathi doctor. Species that had been enemies for millennia were now neighbors. Chen took her seat among them. Just one representative among hundreds. This was exactly what she had wanted. The first assembly speaker, elected by popular vote, was a member of the Shaltek. This surprised many. The Shaltek had been known for isolation, but their representative, a quiet scholar named Telvanni, had gained respect during the crisis years for her wisdom and fairness. Telvanni called the assembly to order. Her voice was soft but carried clearly through the chamber. "We gather here as equals," she said. "For the first time in galactic history, every voice carries the same weight. Every vote matters the same. We have been given a chance to build something better than what came before. Let us not waste it." The first years of the General Assembly were difficult. Old habits died hard. Species that had always dominated tried to reclaim their power through manipulation and alliances. Smaller species struggled to find their voices after millennia of silence. But slowly, the new system took hold. Disputes were resolved through fair courts instead of political power. Trade agreements protected all parties equally. Defense arrangements no longer favored the strong over the weak. The 4 founding species that had rejected the new order watched from their isolation. Their leader, Counselor Vexnar, had predicted that the General Assembly would collapse within a decade. Instead, it grew stronger. His own people began to question his decision. Why were they standing outside while the galaxy rebuilt itself? 15 years after its founding, the General Assembly welcomed its first former holdout. The Vethrani Consortium, now led by younger voices, requested membership. Their admission was granted without conditions. The past was acknowledged. The future was open. Director Chen retired from public service 20 years after Earth severed ties with the old council. She had seen her vision become reality. A galaxy of equals, a civilization where the species you belonged to mattered less than the contributions you made. At her retirement ceremony, a young human diplomat asked her what she was most proud of. Chen thought for a long moment. "We were ignored for 80 years, she said. "They took everything we gave and offered nothing but contempt. When we left, they expected us to come crawling back. Instead, we waited. We let them understand what they had lost. And when they were ready, we showed them a better way." She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, ships carried goods between worlds. Doctors healed the sick. Engineers built wonders. Artists created beauty. And all of it happened because different species had learned to work together as equals. "The greatest victory is not defeating your enemy," Chen said. "It is making your enemy see that you were never enemies at all. Just partners who had forgotten how to share." She smiled. The universe had changed. And it had changed for the better. Humanity had come to the stars as newcomers. They had been dismissed as unimportant. They had been treated as servants. Now they sat among equals, helping to guide a galaxy toward a brighter future. It was, Chen thought, exactly where they belonged. The end.